intersection of good drinks, good music, and good times. This is Hops and Spirits Bar Conversations.
What better way to start off 2025 than with a guest that has a cool story and makes some good music as well. His latest EP, Believer, was released this past summer. He's on a Voice alum. Let's welcome in Liam St. John. Liam, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, I appreciate you, helping us launch 2025. And, I feel like it's fitting because, typically you celebrate the new year. So this is Bar Conversations. You celebrating anything tonight? With anything tonight?
Absolutely. We got the Woodford Reserve Holiday Edition.
Nice.
Got it for my birthday.
There you go. That's a good birthday present.
Look at all this. Everybody brings me whiskey for my birthday.
Well, it seems like they know you well then. So do you have like a little collection of bourbon then? A big collection, or just, you have some bottles?
This is basically it. I do have one very precious bottle. It's a Japanese whiskey. It's a Yamazaki 12-year, and it's my favorite whiskey ever.
Now, how often do you go to that pour?
My girlfriend got it for me when I signed a Big Loud, and so on occasions like that, or like friend's birthday or something, I'll get a glass out.
I like it. I like it. I got a little Maker's Mark Stave Profile number 46 tonight. Figured you got some songs that make reference to this kind of thing that we're drinking tonight. So I figured It was fitting. Now, do you prefer you mentioned you got the bourbon, you got the whiskey. Do you dabble with anything else when you travel? Is it always that kind of your go-to drink, or how's that work for you on the road?
Yeah, it's typically some Jack Daniels in the green room, and maybe like a Stella or something. Just a light lager. I love beer for sure.
Well, and we're going to be talking a lot about your music here in a little bit. As much as I love to always talk about bourbon, talking about you though, growing up, you weren't exactly focused solely on music, but maybe even more focused on sports.
Yeah. The main sport being track and field was consumed my everything, my mind, the top of my mind, my desires. For most of my life, I fell in love with track and field probably when I was like 5 or 6 years old, when Michael Johnson ran in those golden spikes in Atlanta. And I've been obsessed with it ever since. And so, I pursued track and field all the way through college and even post-collegiately for a year in South Africa.
I was going to say, you don't hear too many people say, yeah, I want to do track and field at age 5. I mean, were you just always on the go at that age, or was it just those golden spikes and you wanted a pair and, you were done from there?
Yeah, I think I was always, heavily influenced by people. I don't know, maybe it was like, because I didn't have a dad around, but like I was heavily influenced by like influential manly people. Like I was obsessed with Walter Payton as a kid as well, and then that's what got me into music too, seeing Louis Armstrong and Ray Charles, and so I just really grasped onto those type of people and became pretty mesmerized by them.
Now here's the best question: did you ever get yourself a pair of those golden spikes?
My mom did get me a replica pair. They weren't gold though. They were like blue suede, which, shout out to Elvis. But yeah, that was one of my Christmas gifts one year. I had to have been like 12 or 13 years old, and I had like the coolest spikes in the middle school,
Well, and like you said, you loved it so much, and you were good at it too. Like you said, you went even to South Africa to train with the best in the world. What was that experience like? I know in the end that wasn't what you ended up doing with the rest of your career, but what was it like to do that and go through all that?
Yeah, I mean, being a track and field athlete and being an Olympian was the purpose and the goal for a lot of my life. And being able to go overseas and train with, these world class athletes was in itself the realization of the dream. I was, competing at these huge track and field meets in South Africa and like Botswana, and huge crowds, and the people competing with me had gold and silver and bronze medals from, Beijing, Rio, London, and I was training with them every day. So it was like pretty surreal for me to be able to do that. And they're some of my best friends today, and I fell in love with that country. And but it was a peaceful exit from the sport because, I just realized their bodies could do stuff that mine just couldn't physically do. But I really had a good, peaceful goodbye to track and field after that year.
Well, your body can do a few other things. It can play some music. It can play some pretty amazing music. Where did that love of music come from? When did it come in? And then, because clearly, it had to be there somewhere along the way.
Oh yeah, I fell in love with music very, very young. Some of my earliest memories. I contribute a lot of the credit to my mom. She had a really beautiful taste in music, and I grew up listening to artists like I said, Ray Charles, Louis Armstrong, Lauryn Hill, Tracy Chapman, all very huge influences, but records my mom would spin. But I always like to say the blues finds those that need it, and for some reason, I feel born to be pretty like melancholy and blue. Even as a child, it's hard for me to like express emotion. And when I hear the blues, when I heard the blues as a kid, it was the first time I ever felt moved. And I've just been trying to create that feeling ever since.
Well, and you touched on your mom, having, a great collection of music, or at least being able to introduce you to an amazing collection of music. So did you grow up around like a musical family, or was it just that love of music that, you'd play on the record player or things like that?
Yeah, my mom was a hippie. She grew up, in the 60s and 70s, and so musical in the sense of just an artistic environment. She always encouraged every form of art. My older sister, is an incredible singer and songwriter as well. So I just grew up around it in that sense. But me and my sister are the first two artists in our family. My mom could draw and stuff, but she just always encouraged us to express ourselves in the ways in which we felt we wanted to. So
It sounds like a lot of creativity, though, in the family.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, and you talk about those classic blues folks and things like that. Who, even as you grew older, what were your influences in music? What kind of did you gravitate towards? Just throughout your life.
Yeah, I mean, it was for a lot of my childhood and even growing up through high school. Obviously, I was influenced by pop. I love hip hop and the pop Billboard charts. I loved all that stuff, but I always came back to Motown and soul music, and Stevie Wonder was a huge influence for me as a vocalist. Lauryn Hill, Sam Cooke is one of my favorite artists, and that's one of the "A Change Is Gonna Come" is my mom's favorite song, and so it's one of the first songs I learned how to sing. But yeah, I mean, I love Amy Winehouse. She's one of my top artists of all time, and more modern artists like Hozier and Kaleo, Gary Clark Jr. I really respect a lot of them and take influence from them. And I'm still learning and still expanding my musical palette. And I just discovered Sleepy John Estes, which one of like the founders, forefathers of the blues, and he has that song, "The Diving Duck Blues," and it's all about whiskey. And we, the blues has been singing about whiskey since it started.
It's perfect drink to have on hand when you're down. And you
Yeah.
know, I find it. You talk a lot about those artists, but where you grew up, correct me if I'm wrong. You grew up in Washington, Pacific Northwest, right?
Yeah.
No grunge, no metal there. I mean,
I mean, I love Nirvana for sure. But yeah, like I said, I think it just that type of music found my soul first, and that's what I've stuck with for most of my life. Only as I've grown and like stepped outside of my comfort zone have I like gotten into those types of music, especially Nirvana. Only in the past couple of years have I like really started to dig into Kurt Cobain and his life and his writing processes. And it's interesting because even though I grew up listening to blues, his process is the same, and it's kind of we're all kind of the same, especially those disturbed, troubled songwriters.
well, sometimes you gotta you just you reach in and those life experiences come out. And like I mentioned, you did grow up though in Washington Pacific Northwest. What impact did that have on you? Because that's a whole different region than say Nashville, where and places like that where there's certain types of music and just how
Yeah,
life is.
yeah. I mean, I wrote an entire album about where I'm from, which will be my next album. I think what influenced me the most is just the the environment of the Northwest creates a certain type of person, which is just like very relentless. Like the weather is so relentless there. You get the hottest summers, the coldest and snowiest winters. The rain is super like sporadic in spring. You don't know you get all seasons in one day. And I feel like it takes it molds a certain type of person where you have to adapt quickly and you have to weather a lot of storms. And I think that's as I was writing that album, what I was reflecting on, especially in influential people in my life who have grown up there, like my mom, of course. Um, yeah, I really have grown to respect and love my hometown even more since I've written that album and reflected on all of that.
Well, and you're weathering multiple storms up there, and for you as you kind of dove into this musical career, you tried out for The Voice a few times before getting through. What pushed you to one try out and two kind of keep going for it?
Yeah, I mean, as when you're young in your career and it's just still a dream and like almost impossible, watching The Voice is like a pretty inspiring thing, and like it's like, wow, maybe one day I could do that. And then when you mature and start like really seriously thinking about it, and then you get the opportunity to audition, it's kind of like the biggest moment in your life. It feels like, um, and that's what it was to me. And I got rejected pretty instantly. I auditioned in Philadelphia, flew all the way out there, sang for 30 seconds, and they're like, "That's enough." Uh, but you know, I'm really grateful for all the rejection in retrospect because I did have this perspective that my career was up to all these other people and it was out of my hands, and I needed NBC, I needed The Voice, I needed a producer, I needed a manager, I needed a label to do all this. Um, but through all that rejection, I, you know, I discovered that A, I really wanted this and I wasn't willing to quit. And B, I discovered that I needed to like put in the trench work and do the work. And that's when I found like purpose. And that's when I realized like in the bottom of the industry, doing dive bars for nothing but a shot of whiskey or a slice of pizza, I found joy. And and it was at that moment where I knew like nothing was going to stop me from doing it. And then that just gave me the confidence to start pursuing it regardless of who was supporting me, and that's how I found my voice as an artist. And when I eventually did audition, I was a completely different singer. I had matured in my voice. I had matured in my perspective, and it, just was a completely different version of me when I finally got cast for the show.
Well, I was gonna say you adapted, you weathered that storm, and you, like you said, you made it. You were on The Voice. What did you take from that experience once you got there? Because one, it's a journey to get there, and two, to be on it and kind of see what some of the coaches are able to pass along, and then just be in front of an audience, a national audience at that.
Yeah, it was definitely just another opportunity to grow and see a different level of the industry, and to see how I could adapt to it. But yeah, I mean, got to spend some time with Gwen Stefani. She was my coach and gave me some great advice on how to perform and just take risks, even when there's a lot at stake, and that has been something I've held on to, especially in performance, because when you're reserved on stage, people can tell, and it's also just it's cutting yourself short. And so, yeah, I had a lot of fun, and it was definitely a moment I'll never forget for sure. But it's been a lot of career since then.
Absolutely. I was going to say, in a few different places you've lived. You were out in LA for a while. You call Nashville home now. What pushed you to make that move and go from the West Coast to where country music calls itself home?
Yeah, a few reasons. The biggest part being like, I finally found the team I wanted to keep around in my corner, and that was I signed a publishing deal with Warner Chappell and Kingpen Music, and then I eventually signed to Big Loud Records. And so they're all headquartered in Nashville, and I just felt it would be best to be around the people that are in my corner and that are going to help me get to the next level. And then, yeah, just all of my friends are here, all of my peers. Most of them are, and I get to spend more quality time with people that are in the same headspace as me. And there's just a lot of work here, a lot of songwriting opportunities. And yeah, it just made sense at the time. But I still miss Los Angeles. I go there all the time.
I was gonna say you can't take the West Coast out of the West Coast kid too often, and
Yeah.
you talk about kind of the time on The Voice where you kind of got rejected, and you were able to find who you were and kind of what it would take. Was there a moment for you when you finally kind of found your sound, kind of what you wanted to do with music?
Yeah. I think the most important moment so far for me was like a year after The Voice. Things had just kind of almost shut off as far as like traction online, like no real opportunities were happening, and COVID took the opportunity to like play live away from me, and that's like my breath, that's the thing I love most. But I don't know, it took a toll on me that year, and I woke up one morning and just realized how poorly I was talking about myself to myself. I just looked in the mirror once and I just kind of like hated who I was looking at and realized like I would never treat anybody else in my life like this. And so I don't know, I just started like affirming myself and telling myself I love you, and like it's okay to be yourself, and that took a lot of pressure off of me. And then I a month later wrote Dipped in Bleach, which there was all this pent up like guilt and shame that I had been holding on to for a long time, because I grew up in a religious environment and just like never felt like I was allowed to talk about the things I've done, and so that were hurtful to my soul and to my health. And so I finally just like let go of that shame and wrote "Dipped in Bleach," and that song completely changed my life.
I was gonna say, you talk about it. That I believe I've read where that is possibly one of the most or the most personal songs you've ever written. You know, what was it like for you to kind of be vulnerable and put all that out there?
It was terrifying when I first did it because I still had all these like fears of, you know, letting people down. But um, what I found was the complete opposite. Like from being honest with myself and in this song, I was able to resonate with, you know, millions of people around the world who were feeling the same thing, going through similar situations. Like, and and, you know, it's connected me to my core audience, and I'm so grateful that I was able to do that. You know, I found the courage to write the song, and so now whenever I write, it's like the main the main rule for me is when I sit down, I have to be honest, and still it's still hard, you know, because I still fuck up, and you know, I still have like these demons that I deal with, and every time I write, I have to be honest with myself about them. But that is what I think my main rule for songwriting has come to be, is being honest.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, but people can see, like you said, people can see when you're being honest, and they can see themselves in a song, and see that maybe they're not the only one going through those types of things, and like you said, you know, that's kind of where your process is now. What's that feedback though been like for you? Because I'm guessing that's have to be a little bit, you know, reassuring, refreshing to know like there are other people out there. They're going through what I've gone through, or maybe I'm helping someone through something, or just, you know, anything like that. Like, I'm guessing that has to really
Yeah,
help you, you know, go, I'm doing something right.
yeah. I mean, just as a person, it feels amazing to know that I'm not alone in my the demons I'm fighting. But as an artist, you know, what more could you want than your song to impact another person's life in a positive way? You know, that is everything to me and to, you know, most songwriters, I think. Um, yeah, the most incredible thing is connecting with all those people in a live setting. Um, but if I can't do that, there's been a lot of really, really powerful, you know, messages on Instagram that, you know, people going through addiction or recovering or just going through a hard time, and a lot of military people using my songs while they're overseas, and so that is just will never get old to me, and I will never not be, you know, grateful that they listen, and just amazed that uh, I got lucky enough for my songs to be heard. You know?
I was gonna say music is powerful, and you know, like I said at the top of the show, you know, you put out an EP back in the summer of 2024, Believer. What was that experience like to bring, you know, those songs maybe to people that either didn't know about them or just, you know, shine a new light on them?
Yeah, well, it was my first record of a full band production, and I was a little scared to do that just because my first two albums were um, acoustic live. But full band has always been my end all be all, and so I really wanted to present the next version of Liam to everybody. But yeah, super lucky to have a partner like Big Loud Rock, who is just so supportive of my artistic direction and so supportive, you know, of development, and that they'll really do anything to help me get the songs out there. And yeah, I was really happy with the creative direction of everything, and um, just happy to get that next phase of Liam St. John out there. And it's only the beginning. You know, that four song EP is just four songs of a 16 song album that will be coming out.
One of my favorite songs off of the Believer EP though is Forefathers. You know, like I said, it talks a little bit about what we're enjoying tonight. how did that song come to be, and what was it like to bring that thing to life?
Yes. So, Forefathers, one of my favorite songs I've ever written. It came, this was the sequence. I wrote Dipped in Bleach, then wrote like a fun little Bonnie and Clyde song, Eleanor Thornton, and then another very personal and intimate song to my story, which is Forefathers. But yeah, I grew up without a father figure. Single mom raised me and my two older sisters, and I haven't really like up to that point really hadn't expressed myself and on how I felt about that, about growing up without a dad. But yeah, the song morphed into what it is. The first rendition of the song was a completely different progression, completely different lyrics. And then one day I was just like toying with just writing in my journal, and I wrote like Mr. Jack Daniel, Mr. Johnny Walker. And then that sparked the idea to like, well, that kind of became the thing I leaned on, especially when things kind of got harder in my life, later in my life, and so it morphed into what it is. It was a magical moment, really like an out of body experience when I found that idea for the chorus, and then the whole song kind of came together. Was really able to tell my story in the verses, and then the chorus just really hits hard.
It's a fantastic song, and the whole EP is pretty awesome, and I'm guessing now that I have heard what came maybe in between Dipped in Bleach and Forefathers might be the inspiration for the two music videos then that were connected for Believer. Is that right? Am I picking up on something here or no?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely am hugely obsessed with Bonnie and Clyde for some reason. I just think it's kind of weird how much we romanticize these criminals, but for that reason, I just also romanticize them and just thought it was a weird thing. But I wrote East End Prison Farm Blues, which is about Clyde Barrow and his time in prison. And ever since then, just like been enthralled with the story. And it just so happened that the music video creator that I worked with was also inspired by that story, and it just made sense with Landslide Over the Highway and Believer. Just kind of like a toxic relationship gone bad. So
I was gonna say, what was it like to shoot those two videos and kind of bring those stories to life, and how you might perceive them, and share that out into the world, because I'm guessing the music videos is totally different than being in the studio to be recording songs.
It was awesome. It was the first ever like major music video I've gotten to be a part of, and just like got to flex like my acting muscles, however many acting muscles I have there are. Yeah, I really like admire that part of just artistic expression, like just the the physical interpretation, like the picture interpretation of everything. And I really love movies and acting, and so, or at least I respect actors, and good actors really have influenced me just as a person and as an artist, and have really impacted me. And so that was the part I loved about it so much. And then just seeing them all come together after the edits, it's really cool what directors and filmmakers can do with all the cuts that you're doing and stuff.
Now, are you going to continue acting? Is that career number 2, 3 down the road maybe?
Definitely, I would love to. I mean, I did for a little bit like some commercial acting, like literal commercials and stuff, and then started dipping into feature films, just at least auditioning. But I would love to continue growing in my artistic expression on the screen and stuff.
Well, and then you got the stage as well, and you kick off your 2025 shows with two different tours. You got Dexter and the Moon Rocks, who fantastic guys, and then ZZ Ward. I mean that's
Yeah.
got to be a hell of a way to get back out there.
Yes, I'm so excited. I just finished a run with Dexter. Um, some of the coolest guys I've ever met, and their audience is incredible. They got the coolest fans, super welcoming, and just full of raw energy. And so, there's nothing more you can ask for as a performer. But yeah, like I said, live performance is everything to me. It's what fuels me to keep going. And so, getting the opportunity to open for Dexter and the Moon Rocks one more time, and then ZZ Ward, who I've been a fan of for years, it's a really cool, um, you know, full circle moment for me. And this year has been mostly creating, making the new album, rebuilding my team a little bit. And so I didn't get to go out on the road much. And as you can imagine, that was pretty hard for me as someone who loves live music as much as I do. And so I'm just really happy to be getting back on the road in 2025. It's been a long time coming, but I'm really excited.
Well, it sounds like there are going to be some great shows, and you talk about how much you love being on stage and kind of being able to perform, connect with the audience. What is it about though being on stage for you that is truly the best part?
Um, for me, being on stage is the place where I feel the most present, and I think that's the goal as a human, is just to be present in the moment. And to be present, you just have to. There's no judgment towards yourself. There's no judgment towards the people around you, and you're just fully able to express. Yeah, but the thing about performing with a live audience is they're doing the same thing out in the audience. They're also taking their walls down, being themselves, being present, and that's the most powerful form of connection there is, I think. And every night I have to remind myself that it's not just me screaming out to a wall of people. It's like this real human connection where people are coming to express themselves and to give of themselves as well, and that is very special to me.
Well, and I always love to ask this question. I always got to ask you what your go-to drink is. What's your favorite, type of drink. But I always enjoy the answers on this one. What's your favorite song to perform these days, on stage?
Hmm. I've got this new song called "The Greyhound Bus Blues," and it's very, very fun to play. And my new band is upright bass, electric guitar, banjo, drums, and me on acoustic guitar. And it just creates this really, really cool sound that, I don't think there's much of it out there because it's like combining rock and roll, blues, and bluegrass. um, but that one's really fun to play. Some of my favorites, I mean, I love playing Forefathers because people scream their guts out for it. Same with Dipped in Bleach. But some of the other ones that you wouldn't, I wouldn't think people would know are like Where the Pines Meet the Palms, and like some of the covers I do, people go nuts for those, and I have a lot of fun. Like I do cover "Toxic" by Britney Spears,
I
but
love that.
it's got electric blues guitar and it's swagged out, and I really love playing that one.
Well, and I think that's what's awesome about the live shows is you guys get to do a little bit different, even if it's this one of your songs, you can kind of mess around with it a little bit, have fun, and if
Yeah,
it's someone else's song, you can completely reimagine it. And that's that creativity that you get to showcase.
Yeah, I love that. It's been really fun, like building my band back up the last 6 months, just because we've been able to create really fun and special moments within the set, on the covers and on the originals, just like creating moments. And because like I said, we want the people in the crowd to be in it with us, so that's what we're trying to create.
Well, it sounds like you're on the way to creating one hell of a show. And once you were saying banjo, upright bass, I was like, I'm in. I'm all in. And, you've kind of teased it. Believer was maybe the little appetizer for what's next for you this year. So what else can folks expect from you in 2025?
Yeah, there's a whole album, 16 song coming. I got some really exciting features on it that you'll see soon, and then touring the whole entire country. First as support, and then we're starting the headline tour probably in May. So I'll be out on the road the whole year, and I just can't wait for that. So.
Well, I can't wait to hear what's next, because like I said, I love what you've been able to do. Folks, if you haven't, Dipped in Bleach is such an amazing song. And, like I said, Forefathers is such a fun song, for me to give a listen to. And can't wait to see what's next, Liam. And, thanks for, sharing a drink with me and sharing your journey in this crazy industry.
Yeah, thank you, man. I really appreciate you having me.
Find more from Hops and Spirits at hopspirits.com.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.